to me and I'll give you the key. It's easy. Just keep on hopping, keep on rocking, and don't start stopping. It's everything you need just to walk the scene. And if you wanna make it better, you give it to me. I'll grace it. I believe for you. You wouldn't believe what I see in you. So don't stop. Don't let the dream drop off. Hold up and make it lovely, make it real, and make it yours. Don't stop.
All right, Jenna, super excited to have you on the show. We had talked about this quite some time ago, and we're just now getting to it, but we have some amazing things to chat about today. And I feel like when we originally talked, we could have gone on forever, and that probably could have been a show in and of its own.
No
But
kidding.
today we're here and we're getting her done.
Awesome. Well, good to see you, Connie. I'm so grateful to you to actually do this podcast. I think it's really important what you talk about in your podcast, and just to get, like you said, the organic information that people potentially are looking for, which we both know they're looking for. Might not want to hear it, but they're looking for it.
Oh, it always cracks me up when I'm getting ready to go as a guest on a podcast and somebody sends me like this script and I'm like, no, I'm shooting from the hip, bro. Like, that's what I love.
Yeah, me too. I'm 100% with you. That's why, when we were introduced to each other by Nick, I know he as well. He's very much he's the straight shooter, straight from the hip shooter. I'm sorry, I'm just going to cross my legs because as a yogi, this is how I sit. And, I appreciate that and respect that so much because a lot of it is scripted. A lot of what we see, especially on social media, is scripted. And I prefer the truth, the God.
Well, and I think that's a huge thing right there. I think that the script is because these people are not confident with the knowledge that they're bringing to the table. So they need to have some kind of guidance or some template to read off of or something like that. And so I'm just like, ask me all the questions. I'll tell you if I don't know, I'll tell you if I don't know. I mean, like I had Dr. Bill Campbell on last week and he started firing back at me over stuff and he was asking me questions and I was like, well, I haven't seen that because this is the age demographic I work with. And he's like, oh, okay, interesting. So
that's it. I mean, it's refreshing. Don't you find? Because like you said, like a lot of it is so scripted, but the generic honesty is what I prefer. That's what I look for when I'm talking to experts. If you don't know, that's okay. I don't hold any disregard to what they've already taught me if they don't know a certain element of what I'm asking. That makes me go down a rabbit hole even more.
Well, and it's like all about staying in your lane, right? Like too many people are trying to sell themselves to be the do end all fix all. And to me, I'm like, okay, I have a friend that does that. I'll send you their direction.
Yeah, exactly. I know someone who would actually be better at that than me. That's my answer. Because I'm like, if I don't know and it's not my expertise, not my lane, I'm staying out of it.
Right.
Not crash.
A great way to get this started would be like, who are you? What do you do? What got you going into this space in the direction that you're going?
Oh my goodness. Okay. My story is quite an interesting one. At the age of about 9 years old, I realized that I was a lot different than most kids for multiple reasons, not just my intuitive nature, but what was going on with my physical body. And unbeknownst to me at that time, I was actually going down a path that was going to change my life. So at age 13, I got sick and tired of being so sick and tired. Keep in mind that I was on the national swim team. I was a musician. I was a busy kid. And school was boring to me. I didn't even have to study. It was just one of those things, right? But I was always sick. And when I say always sick, I mean, my stomach was always inflamed. I was always bloated. I was throwing up from even an apple, for goodness sakes. I had rashes all over my body. I didn't know why they were there. My forehead literally looked like a pizza from the age of 10 until probably 15 years of age. And that in medical aesthetics is all about your large and small intestine. So there's a lot of food allergies. There's a lot of issues with inflammation. But at the age of 13, I thought, okay, I'm sick and tired of this. I'm sick and tired of being on medication all the time. I went to the public library and started reading whatever Chinese medicine book I could find that was in English to try and sort out what was going on. So that started my journey of reducing inflammatory foods in my diet. The biggest thing was meat. Because I grew up in a household, my dad was German, my mom was from India. We ate a lot of meat. That did not work for me. And I was the
Mhm.
one craving vegetables. I can't like that's because my body was so malnourished because I was so sick. So long
Mhm.
story short, my whole entire childhood, I was sick with asthma, sick with digestive issues. Some of the things I did worked better. By the time I was 19, almost 20, I was vegan, but I also was deciding to eat gluten-free. People thought that I was on a diet to lose weight because I was
Mhm.
modeling at the same
Mhm.
time. It wasn't that. I was on a diet to try and fix my body so I wasn't sick all the time.
Mhm.
And so I finally found a doctor at the age of 20, and she finally sat down and listened to me. First and foremost, she's like, I think we have to send you to a breathing expert to see what in the world is going on with your lungs, because this sounds
Mhm.
like asthma to me. And I'm like, what?
Mhm.
And then also at the same time, she said, I think you need to stay with your gluten free diet. It seems to
Mhm.
be working well because my blood cell count had completely done a flip flop. My white
Mhm.
blood cell had decreased substantially. So the inflammation and the irritation in my body was almost reduced within
Mhm.
6 months of eating gluten free.
Mhm.
But I didn't know gluten free at that time as much as I do now. Because I was still having soy sauce, I was still having tea that was sealed with wheat starch. I didn't know these things until I really took it seriously. I was not diagnosed to be celiac until I was 35. I
Mhm.
demanded a scope.
Mhm.
The unfortunate thing with celiacs is if you're not properly diagnosed, you don't follow a gluten-free diet, you will 98% of the chance get stomach cancer. It is a
Mhm.
serious condition.
Mhm.
It is not a fad. And the asthma thing ended up being all about inflammation and allergies as well.
Mhm.
So my journey started at a young age because I wanted to fix myself because I wasn't getting help from the medical community. I
Mhm.
grew up in a small rural town full of pill pushers of all kinds.
Mhm. We were just talking about that
Imagine.
off camera. Yeah.
Yep. I knew what an 8 ball was at the age of 10.
Yeah.
So that's kind
Yep.
of scary. It tells you everything. It was an
Yeah.
oil town, you know?
Mhm.
So northern Canada, it was quite rural in the sense you were cut off from the world.
Mhm.
So that started my journey. I became a holistic nutritionist at 21. I became a personal trainer at 20.
Mhm.
And I was a medical esthetician. I started at the age of 18.
Mhm.
So all of these elements were because of what I was going through, because it wasn't just me going through it. I saw spectrums of that in other people that were
Mhm.
around me. And I thought, this is ridiculous. Nobody's getting help. And I don't want to feel like this for the rest of my life because
Mhm.
you feel like crap. I
Mhm.
mean, you're exhausted, you're depressed, nothing you eat tastes good, nothing you eat sounds good. You don't enjoy food. Even to this day, I look at food as a nemesis.
Mhm.
That's up here because
Mhm.
food for so long made me sick. Do I
Right.
love food? Yes, I love good food. Do I eat well? Yes, I eat awesome.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I wouldn't consider myself a foodie just because of psychological damage. It
Mhm.
took me a long time to get comfortable to even go to a restaurant
Mhm. Well,
because what do you do?
so that's an interesting thing you were talking about with the gluten. So a lot of people don't realize there's gluten in everything. It's in shampoos, it's in, like you were saying, it's in the tea bag, like it's in everything, right?
Skin
Um
lotions, makeup, like
yeah, yeah. And so I actually recently had a client that presented to me with this pretty extreme rash.
uh-oh,
And after peeling through all of her lab work and stuff, I was like, this is a celiac rash. And she's like, well, I don't really eat gluten. And I was like, okay.
really? But
I
that's
said, but
key.
I said, I think, and her daughter came with her to her appointment, and her daughter was like, actually, now that we look at it, we are primarily, most of the whole foods she was eating were not gluten
Right.
foods, but there
Yeah.
were a lot of other factors that were gluten. And that's what I was trying to explain to her is if you have a celiac condition, it is just one little tiny iota of gluten that is going to manifest the same way as a bolus of it is.
The top of the pen.
Yeah,
Oops, I can get that. The top of the pen is all a celiac needs to get a full-on blown out
yeah.
urine. Yeah.
And so I explained that and they were like, wow, okay, that makes sense because she had switched her diet and things got a little bit better, but the rash continued to stay
Mhm,
present. So
mhm.
anyway, it was really interesting that we had figured out that she had celiac, even though she ate her pretty, I mean, looking at her food nutrition choices, I was like, wow, you eat
Do
a, I mean, she was fermenting all of her own foods and she was doing all of the things, quote unquote, right. But when you have a celiac condition, which many people have and they go without being diagnosed, I mean, how many people do you know they don't get diagnosed until 30 years after they've been struggling with it?
You
And
know, yeah, sorry, go on. Yeah.
and most people don't even know they're sick. They're seeing these other things, right? Okay, acne for like acne, rashes, eczema,
Yep.
the
Inflamed
improper,
gums.
yeah, so
Yeah.
many things. And they're like, oh well, gluten doesn't bother me, and their doctor just says, oh well, here have some spirulactone or whatever for your acne and you're good to go. They don't ever investigate a lot of these things. I'm currently working with somebody that has quote unquote ulcerative colitis,
Mm,
diagnosed
mm,
by a
mm.
colonoscopy, but I'm like, did anybody look at your gut microbiome? Did anybody
Thank
do a
you.
GI map? Did anybody
Thank you.
check your calprotectoprotein? Like, where are
Thank
these
you.
numbers? What's
Yes.
going on that
Yeah.
is causing this ulcerative colitis? It may not even be ulcerative colitis, really, if you want to get into the weeds on it. It may be something entirely different. So
Mhm.
that's where I have a problem. Like, we are, and you and I talked about this before we even jumped on the call, we're
Mhm.
so quick to throw a medication at something before looking at all of the underlying factors.
Absolutely. It's unfortunate because the common knowledge of certain elements of internal inflammation
Mhm.
is so minuscule, it's scary. Even professionals that should know about this, that are touching the public, don't even know. So, for
Mhm.
example, for me to go get my hair done, one of the first questions I have to ask is it gluten free? They look at
Mhm.
me like I've got 50 heads. They're like,
Mhm.
well, it's going on your hair. It's going on your head. No, you don't understand. If I put something that's glutenized on my skin, I end up with scabs.
Mhm.
My scalp burns off,
Mhm.
period. So it's not something that is like, okay, it's just going to hurt for a little bit. No, it's 3 to 4 weeks of healing time for
Right.
me.
Right.
And that is not fun.
And that's
It's
common with
painful.
inflammation.
Yes. Yeah. It's really unfortunate. And, you know, I think over time it's going to become more and more expressed and understood. But
Mhm.
it really is people like yourself that are expressing the information and sharing this information across the nation and across the globe. Because realistically, there's many times I've traveled, and sure, I don't have the major gluten response that I might have in another country like I do in North America because the wheat is grown differently here,
Mhm.
but I still have a reaction. I'm still celiac.
Mhm.
That's the issue. If you have a gluten intolerance or a wheat intolerance, different story,
Mhm.
right? So I find it very frustrating as someone that has been dealing with this. I'm almost 50 years old. I've been
Mhm.
dealing with this for my whole entire life, and I really don't see much of a difference. Number one, in the beauty industry, but number
Mhm.
two, in the restaurant industry. Sure, you might have gluten free options, but what does that really mean?
Mhm.
How do you clean your pans?
Mhm. Yeah, what's on
You
your
know,
grill
what's
previous?
on your grill? Or do you have a section of your grill that's completely separate for people that need to eat gluten free? Do you have any idea how important that is? Like, I
Mhm.
live in a complex. I can't even use their grills unless I have foil underneath because I can't
Mhm.
trust it. My
Right.
whole entire family eats gluten free to protect me.
Right. And I think that's a huge thing. I mean, honestly, if you're in my eyes, most people should remove it anyways. They're like, well, it doesn't bother me. It's like, how do you know that though? How do you
Correct.
know? You don't know because you're not looking under the hood. And
No.
these are the same people that say it doesn't bother them, but they're coming to you to lose weight and change their health habits.
And they're
And
inflamed and they're
yeah,
swollen.
yes. And they're like, oh, but I'm not removing gluten. And I was like, okay, I had to have this talk with a gal the other day because I was like, okay, well, we were trying to, she very much struggles to eat cleaner.
Okay.
And she very much struggles to eat the right food. And
Mhm.
I mean, to me, I'm going to be a little tough on this situation because I think that if you really want it, you're going to make it happen.
I
Right.
agree. I agree. Yep.
However, sometimes you got to meet people where they're at. And so
Yes.
I was like, okay, well, let's start small. I said, how about this? What if you get a gluten-free box of Annie's mac and cheese? Obviously, not the best thing out there, but
It's a start.
where it's a start. And I
Yep.
said, that box is 2.5 servings. I said, get 2 boxes, that's 5. I
Yep.
said, get that, get your protein source, pick out a veggie. I like broccoli because broccoli goes good in macaroni and cheese.
Yum. And broccoli is good, period.
You've now got 5 meals for 5 days. I
Yes.
said you cook both those boxes and then that's portion control. And we've cleaned it up a little, still far better than any fast food. So there are, let's meet you where you're at. And she goes, well, I don't eat gluten-free. And I said, okay. I said, but if you could do one step better by eating gluten-free and it tastes the same, I guarantee if I fed somebody that box of macaroni and cheese right now, they aren't going to know the difference.
Correct.
I said, you can lower your inflammation just that much more. You can make the meal just that much better, and it can still be convenient for you. If you could just do a little bit better, don't you think that that's going to manifest in your health journey?
Thank you.
And she goes, I didn't think about it that way.
That's what happens though. And you know what? I think this is a societal thing. I really do. I mean, come on. In Western medicine, we talk about take a pill for this, take a pill for that. It's a quick fix. It's never getting down to the root of the situation. You know, in the mental health world, you know, I'm a master hypnotherapist. And the reason I became a master hypnotherapist is because I wanted to get to the core of really what was going on with the mindset and the brain. The conscious mind just follows what the subconscious mind does. The subconscious mind is 98.75% of our behaviors, our thought processes. Even if you pile through 30 affirmations 30,000 times a day, it's not going to do what the subconscious mind does to you. It doesn't. So you got to get into the subconscious mind. So that is getting to the root of the problem. In Eastern medicine, you get sick, you fire your doctor. Because it's based on prevention. It's talking about balance of the body, homeostasis. We forgot all about what that means here because unfortunately, what's the driving force? Money.
Yes.
Not health.
Right. And this
not moving forward in a gleeful way in life and feeling good every day. No, it's like, how many more pills can I take to fix this symptom? What is it from?
And now I was totally cracking up because I was watching TV last night. We were watching America's Ugliest House on HGTV, right?
Ooh, that sounds good.
I'm all about the HGTV. Drives my family nuts. Like if I need to wind down, that's what I'm up to. But
Nice,
anyway,
I love it.
that's like such a side trail. But we're watching this, and this commercial comes on, and it says, "Do you have it's the dystonia from that you get from taking benzos? So and certain antidepressants and stuff. They're like, Kate recently treated her depression with whatever drug it was, but now has something dystonia. But there's a new pill for that." And I was like, oh, hell yeah. So we can treat the one pill with a new pill. And you see that all the time. And that's
I see that all the time on the ads.
Oh, it's horrible. And so that's kind of what we jumped on to talk about today. We dove down a little bit of a nutrition rabbit hole, but what basically talking about the mental portion of things and also polypharmacology. So first and foremost, I actually just recently went on a rant about this, and you probably heard it on Instagram, but people that adopt these labels, and you're the prime example of somebody that has not adopted your label, right? You're 50 years old. Now, if you adopted the Western medicine, American thought process, you would say, well, shit, I'm 50. I'm too old now. I'm going to look ugly. I'm going to gain 50 pounds. I'm going to be depressed because that's a new thing. The minute you go into menopause, you walk into your doctor and they go, how's your mental health? Oh, you're a little sad. I think that you need to go on a SSRI or something like that. You know what I mean?
Let me tell you. This is where I get so upset because being a mental health professional, being in the health and wellness industry for 30 plus years, the thing that irritates me so much is when a woman specifically goes into the doctor and the doctor, male or female, I don't care who it is, male or female, a lot of the time will say to the patient, oh, well, you know what, it'll pass. You're just going through menopause. Excuse me, perimenopause and menopause can take 15 years to go through, and it can kill a woman. not only can it cause heart distress, all of those crazy hormones going absolutely in and out of her vortex, literally of her body, can create a major mental health dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really frustrating when I hear people go, oh, well, I've got menopause belly. There's nothing I can do about it. Bullshit. Oh, I've got, depression because I'm going through menopause. Bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
There's more to it than just that. So it gets me really upset. And then what you see, like we were talking about, they're given 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 prescriptions to deal with that one scenario. What people don't understand with the brain is that when you have 2 different types of medications for mental health concerns that have landed in the chemical ordinance of the brain, you now have what's called polypharmacology. A third one won't work. A fourth one won't work. A fifth one won't work. It won't work because the brain is saturated. It doesn't know what to do with all of these chemicals. Our brain is chemicals. So instead of us going down the rabbit hole of multiple different blood testing, genetic testing, seeing what's going on, seeing what type of medications would actually work best for you as an individual, they throw black darts at black hay at midnight. It
Mm-hmm.
makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
But we're taught, unfortunately, in this society, just take a pill.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I can see why. None of us want hard work. I'm sorry, humans are lazy by nature. We really are. I mean, this is why we fall back into bad habits
Self-preservation.
like
Yeah.
this. Yes. Like fight or flight is only really, really, really if we need to run. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Like who really, really, really wants to run away from a tiger? We'd rather sit there and just eat our ice cream and pet the tiger. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like we're
Yeah.
lazy. So, and it's also, I find, very overwhelming for people to hear what you got to go down this rabbit hole and that rabbit hole and that rabbit hole without an explanation of why.
Mm-hmm.
The why is to get a solution for you as an individual. Your blood tests today is going to be completely different than your blood tests in 6 days or 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Based on your stress levels, based on your nutrition, based on your supplements, based on your medication, based on your environment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really unfortunate that we have to pay so much. As far as I'm concerned, blood tests, quite frankly, are very overpriced.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they're not expensive, they're overpriced.
Well, that's Western medicine's fault.
Because it's a business.
Yes.
And look, I'm all for business. I'm a businesswoman myself. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm VP of a publicly traded company in the mind health space.
Mm-hmm.
Fact of the matter is, though, it has to be patient-centric. And that's where our model is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how do we better this model so that everybody that needs this particular type of support and mental support get the right support, not what they've been dealing with for the last 10 or 20 years of depression or anxiety or massive OCD or bipolar issues or any of that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get some real help to people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where, I get really passionate, as you can tell, about the fact that the truth isn't being given to our clients, our patients, and it's so frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got people out there that do want to do it, though.
Right. And I do want to rewind a little bit on what you said back there, because this is where this all comes together, right? Like we were talking about if you could do better. And like you have people saying, well, gluten doesn't bother me, or XYZ doesn't bother me, or this lifestyle practice has never bothered me before, until they hit menopause or they hit some significant milestone where that bucket begins to spill over.
Thank you.
So they are not prepared for this particular point in their life cycle via all of the previous bad habits they had. Now what seemed to be fine at the time is no longer fine, and your body does not have the support to deal with this shift because of your poor previous habits. It's no different than diabetes. You don't just wake up one morning and have diabetes. It happens over time. Might happen in 3 years if you have shitty diet, might happen over 15, who knows, right? But these things manifest. So I'm going to be willing to wager that a person like yourself is having a great transition going through the dreaded menopause because you
Absolutely.
have taken such good care of yourself.
Absolutely. And I feel for a lot of my friends because some of my friends have known me for 25 or 30 years, and they've
Mm-hmm.
known me that I've always been health conscious. I've always eaten well. I've
Mm-hmm.
never been a heavy drinker. I've never been a party person. I'm not bashing any of that. Do what you want to do. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, think about what your actions are going to do down the road. We have what we have right now. We don't even
Mm-hmm.
know if tomorrow is guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
So why waste right now feeling like a bag of shit?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
That makes no sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, in essence, a lot of people that I know are coming to me as personal friends and going, okay, I need your help because I've gained 20 pounds in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
I've got major mental health concerns. I'm going through anxiety, depression. I'm crying at the drop of a hat. I'm angry the next day. Like I can't monitor my emotions. My skin is going crazy. I feel like crap all the time. I'm not sleeping. Don't get me wrong. When I first started having night sweats at 38, I knew exactly what was going on. I knew exactly what to do. And those night sweats lasted 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and muscle mass is another big thing that women don't talk about going through menopause.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, you have to be active. I don't care if you go to the gym, you've got a body that weighs at least 100 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Repetitive action of that, using body weight exercises, will
Mm-hmm.
keep you at least somewhat strong.
Mm-hmm.
Use those legs that God gave you. As
Mm-hmm.
far as I'm concerned, if you can do 50 squats a day doing the dishes, do it. If that's all you can get in, just do it. Just do
Mm-hmm.
something. It's telling when I see all of these actresses in Hollywood that look fantastic at 50,
Mm-hmm.
but they've had plastic surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Happy for you if that's what you want to do. But what's going on inside your body is more
Mm-hmm.
important than what's going on outside. The outside,
100%.
the outside is the last thing to show you what's really going on, not the
Uh-huh.
first thing.
I have
But once you get
experienced
on the
this.
outside, you know it's a problem.
I have experienced this. I've worked with some pretty well-known social media fitness influencers, and they're the hormone balancing experts, and they're shredded all the time, and they're
Right.
really lean. And I know
Family.
that that type of leanness is not healthy. And they're the
No.
same people coming to me because they have all of these mental health issues, and they don't have a
Yes.
menstrual cycle, and they have
Yes.
all the hot flashes and all the problems, and you know, and it's like,
And talk about
okay,
men too.
yes.
The men have major hormone issues.
Mm-hmm.
The men's reduction of testosterone is horrific by the time 35 comes around today
Mm-hmm.
in comparison to 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Holy, infertility in men has skyrocketed.
Mm-hmm.
Geez, I wonder why.
Well, and I actually have a client I've been working with for, I would say probably a year now.
Yeah.
And she actually just got pregnant after she was told it's been 15 years since she had a child where they had to use fertility treatments.
Wow.
And she was told she would never ever get pregnant. And so they've never ever used any kind of protection or anything like that. Here we are 15 years later, and she's like, Connie, she's like,
Oh my
I think that the change in
gosh.
nutrition and getting healthy and eating clean and doing all that made me get pregnant. She's like, it was
I
pretty surprising
agree.
that it
I
was
so
like,
agree.
and I said,
Well, and
actually, it happens all the time.
it does because your body is it's finally in balance. It's homeostasis. It's happy. When your body is happy, it will reward you. And
Hmm.
sometimes there might not be a reward that you want for 18 years, but that's okay. It's still a
Oops.
beautiful blessing.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I'm sure a lot of us were oops, including me, but oh
Yeah.
well, whatever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what a beautiful thing.
Hmm.
Your body is a beautiful machine and is so intelligent.
Hmm.
What we have to do is we have to listen to it and see what it's telling us
Hmm.
because we always want to put the blinders on because we've got too much to do. We don't have time. We don't have time. Well, will you have time when you're lying in a hospital bed because you're dying?
Hmm.
I think you're going to think twice about this. And I've had way too many friends die under the age of 45.
Hmm.
either from heart attack, either from extreme depression, either from cancer, either from MS, ALS. Are you kidding me? These are all symptoms of what's going on in the body. And it's really, it it just makes me sad that people think that there's no other option when there really is. And truthfully, it's not that difficult.
Well,
It's not
and
difficult.
there's so much propaganda against health. Really,
Yeah.
there is. I mean, I had a guy telling me yesterday that one of his coworkers is in kidney failure, and so he has to eat junk food because it's better for his kidneys. And that's what his doctor told him, is that it's easier on his kidneys. And I'm like, okay, well,
Mhm.
if I said first and foremost, that guy is believing what his doctor tells him because it's comfortable. Because he
Yes.
likes that idea. Okay,
Yes.
cool. I can eat junk food forever. That's awesome. Instead of figuring out what actually would help him improve his health. So
So
I
why don't
thought
we
that was
just eat a
interesting.
bucket of chemicals instead of actually eat
Cheetos.
some, fresh
Yeah.
vegetables and fruits that actually are bioavailable to your body when it's suffering?
Right.
Come on.
But yeah, so
It's
anyway,
simple.
huge pharma rabbit hole right there. But so let's talk about the mental health portion though, because that's what you are an expert on. Obviously,
Mhm.
you have grass feelers out on everything, but what we believe truly manifests. And I feel
Yes.
like this has become a popular thing in
Yes.
our current society where people are being labeled. It's like
Yeah.
you have trauma.
Yeah.
You're going through menopause. You have
Mhm.
this, you have that.
Mhm.
And people accept this and they embrace it, and it
Mhm.
limits their ability to reach the goals that they are
Mhm.
looking to reach in health and wellness
Mhm.
because of these beliefs that they have in their head. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, I can't tell you how many times I have Hashimoto's, right? I've been told that I can't do all sorts of things because of Hashimoto's. And I'm like, have you seen me? I'm like,
Right.
bitch, please, like, I got this,
Totally.
So I literally had a client show up the other day and she's like, well, the reason I can't lose weight is because I have Hashimoto's. And I was like, me
Hmm.
too,
Yeah, exactly. Me
and
too, and I happen to be an expert power lifter.
yeah, like, so me too. And I've achieved every goal that I've ever wanted. You want to know why?
Yeah.
Because I don't take that as an answer.
Yes.
I don't. I'm like, what can I do to shut this off? Okay, good. We're going to
Yes.
do that.
Well, I have a personal story on that, and maybe this will give some insight to people because being a mental health professional for as long as I have, yes, I've taken the education. Yes, I have the background and the degrees and the papers, but I also have a deeper understanding personally of what it takes in order to get over some major elements in your life. I went through major abuse as a child. I had to get through that.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way I got through that was truly gratefully, I met a counselor who actually knew about hypnotherapy. So I
Mm-hmm.
was able to work through some of that. But I always revert back to this story. In 2010, I was beat up severely and it caused a brain injury. And 2010, I went through whatever I needed to go through. I had to deal with my mom who had Alzheimer's. My aunt had just died. I had to deal with all that. There's a lot of stress. 2011, I was extremely tired all the time. My body ached all the time. Of course, I went through all the medical stuff to make sure everything was okay, medically and deal with the law and all that stuff in 2010. 2011, I backpacked India for 6 weeks on my own. I mean, I climbed mountains with a Sherpa, for God's sakes, for days on end.
Mm-hmm.
My body was aching constantly. I thought it was because of that. January in 2012, I woke up and got out of bed and fell over. My legs wouldn't work. I crawled to the bathroom, tried to get up on the toilet. My legs wouldn't work. I sat there going, what in the world am I going to do? Thank God I was super fit because I could lift myself up onto the toilet. Thank God my phone was with me. And I had to call a friend and go, I need to go to the hospital. I don't know what's going on here. I was
Mm-hmm.
terrified.
Mm-hmm.
That brain injury had manifested not only emotionally, but physically to the point where I was in rehab for 10 months learning how to walk again. It was terrifying. If
Mm-hmm.
I had listened to what they were saying, that the degeneration of the brain tissue was so extensive now that I probably would have to walk with a cane or a walker for the rest of my life, or not really walk by the time, I got to a certain age. If I'd listened to that, I would have been right there. But today, I teach yoga. I do handstands. I'm arm balancing all the time. I am using my legs. If I can walk somewhere, I walk somewhere to use my legs as much as I can. Yes, I get lazy. I still have a car and I drive, but I didn't want to listen to that. And it was a decision. And I think that's what people forget is you have a decision to make. Do you want to take what is being told to you as gospel about your body, saying, oh, you've got this label now because Jenna, you have a brain injury. You aren't going to be able to walk. You aren't going to be able to do any of this ever again. Hey, do I have issues? Do I still fall over sometimes? Yes. My yoga students laugh at me because sometimes I'm like, oh, now I can laugh at it instead of cry over it. But it was a decision to go, I am not letting this beat me. I am going to find other ways to make this work. That's exactly what I did.
Right.
So in the mental health world, yes, talk therapy is important. But I always say this. People say it takes time to heal. I say, what are you doing in that time to help you heal? You're just sitting on the couch eating Doritos. That's not proactive.
No, not at
That's
all.
just deciding I'm going to accept whatever is given to me. It's very passive. And in what we are as humans, we have the willpower and we have the gift of willpower and the gift of choice to make a decision that is better for us. And that's what I advocate about the mental health realm as well. It's like, if this hasn't been working for you and that hasn't been working for you, then let's find out why.
Well, and that was something I was going to bring up, and I was actually looking for the book on my phone while you were talking about that, that I'm going to be picking up next. But a lot of trauma actually manifests in health conditions as well.
The
And
book, yes. Were you talking about The Body Keeps the Score?
no, and that's why I was just looking for it.
That's an amazing book.
I don't
The
know
Body
why.
Keeps the Score. And that is a phenomenal book to read if anybody wants to really understand how the brain and the mind manifests and trauma manifests in the body. That is the book to read. It's powerful.
And I've
It's
heard that.
actually one of the books. Yes, it's one of the books that we as master hypnotherapists actually teach psychologists and psychiatrists when they're taking their hypnotherapy certification. It's one of the books that we suggest that they read. But the public definitely, it's a phenomenal book. It's a mind-blowing moment.
I'm bummed out because I don't know what's going on my phone right now because I have it right on one of the top text messages and it's not showing it to me. But it's an interesting read by a doctor about how that works. And so I was wondering if you could dive into that a little bit about the hypnotherapy side of that and releasing some of that so that it doesn't manifest down the road as some kind of condition of some sort.
Absolutely. So let me start with what hypnotherapy really is and how long it's been used. Hypnotherapy has actually been used in the medical world before it came holistic. It started in the 1600s, quite frankly. That's the earliest writings and teachings that we can actually find about it. I personally think it's come from way before that because deep meditation can be like a hypnotherapy session. Now, hypnotherapy is nothing to be afraid of. You're not going under anything. You're not going under a table or going under a bridge. You're not doing any of that. And actually what it is, okay, what's your favorite sport to watch?
I don't know. I'm not much of a sports person, honestly.
Okay, let's say you're watching a movie, but you're kind of napping through the movie, but you still are hearing it in your head. That's what hypnotherapy is like. So you're very aware, you hear everything, you remember everything. But what it does is it not only mentally and subconsciously, but energetically helps you attract and detach emotionally from elements that you need to release. You're fully in complete control throughout the whole entire hypnotherapy process. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. We as hypnotherapists are just guiding you to go through the process of elimination and detachment. So, for example, traumatic stories or traumatic elements that happened to me that most people wouldn't ever be able to speak about, I can talk about as if I just watched it on a TV show because I don't have the emotional connection, even though I can remember everything that happened. And I can tell the story over and over and over again without it re-implanting trauma. This is why talk therapy can re-implant trauma into the conscious mind, but even into the subconscious mind is what we had suggested, really guides everything of what we do. So in the hypnosis, you have the opportunity as an individual to go, yeah, I'm ready to release this, or no, I'm not really quite ready right now. And that's okay. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 sessions. The type of hypnotherapy that I do and that we've taught, we don't need 10, 12, 15 sessions. Our goal is to eliminate whatever concern is, because we're getting right to that finite little sand in the pyramid that started that pyramid. We're getting to that finite sand to eradicate it so the pyramid becomes nice and flat. There's no peak of emotions. There's no heightened feeling of anything. And we double check with the body through the hypnotherapy session, basing it on a scale of 0 to 10. 0, you feel nothing in that portion of the body. 10, you feel extreme, whatever it might feel. And we get it down to as close to 0 as we possibly can in the hypnotherapy session. So then in your waking moments, you probably will be able to talk about it and not really feel anything. It's really so powerful. Now, what that does is it allows the person who's gone through the session to, number one, feel empowered. Every single patient has said to me after a session, holy crap, that was incredible, because they finally felt peace. That right there, every single one of them, I feel peaceful. I feel lighter. I can't believe that those memories came up. I don't even remember that. I don't know where that came from. Sometimes we're working with certain traumas that they blocked out. The beautiful thing is, in hypnotherapy, you don't need to remember it because it's filed in the subconscious mind. That's a beautiful thing, number one. The other bigger thing is, number two, you don't need to talk. You can just lift your finger and say yes or no. So you don't have to share anything of your story if you don't want to.
You're not regurgitating it and reinforcing it that way. And I like that.
Yes.
I feel like we tell ourselves, I've been working with this with clients pretty religiously, where they will tell themselves, like, I'm really stressed out right now. They'll say that to me. They'll send me a message and they'll be like, I'm really stressed out right now. I'm trying to just cope through this next couple. And I'm like, but you're reinforcing that thought.
Yeah.
And I said, so how can you flip it around? It's, it's okay to admit that you're struggling, but how can you flip that out, flip that around emotionally so that it's not such a triggering feeling? Because the minute some of these words come up in our thought process, it immediately sticks us into a fight or flight mode.
Yes. I always say what you say after I am is. Wayne Dyer said that for years. If anybody doesn't know who Wayne Dyer is, they need to be listening to Wayne Dyer, because, but everything that comes after I am is, I am tired. I am great. If you keep repeating certain things, how can you not be that?
Right. Oh man, that's I've never heard that, but I'm writing it down right now.
It is powerful. And it, like you said, it's reimplantation, but not only that, it's pre-paving. We're teaching our son right now to pre-pave the day.
Yeah.
So when we go to sleep at night, tomorrow's going to be an amazing day. You're going to be able to see this person, you're going to be able to laugh, you're going to learn about this, you're going to have a great lunch, you're going to be able to play this instrument, you're going to wake up feeling so good, you're going to have the best sleep tonight. I call it flipping the pancake. Okay, this side is raw because it's not on the grill.
Right.
But on the grill, we're burning away everything that we don't want. So when you flip it, Now it looks all beautiful and golden brown and smells delicious and it's yummy. Look how beautiful that is.
Mm-hmm.
Tantalizing, tasty. What are you going to put on there? Strawberries, blueberries, a little bit of maple syrup. You want that? Okay. Dress it up so it feels good.
Mm-hmm.
Look for the feeling better word.
Mm-hmm.
And I even catch myself doing that sometimes. My husband's fantastic because he'll be like, what are you talking about right now? And I'm like, I just need to get it out. Just like you said, I need to get it out. But then right
Mm-hmm.
away, I'm like, no, I'm transforming this energy because words are spells.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds
100%.
woo, but words are spells.
No, I'm a huge, huge believer in that.
Me
Like, I
too.
don't like any of, I hate labels. I'm not a believer in that at all. So I love
Too.
that saying because,
Exactly.
I had to be very careful coming out of my last powerlifting meet because some things happened that were not smooth at all. And it was a really rough time coming out of that. And part of me was like, wow, I am depressed. And then I was like, I can't say that. Like, that's an awful thing to say. Like, then I am. So we're not
Right.
recognizing that
Yeah.
particular wordage and we're going to
Right.
move it into something else. Like,
Yeah.
you're experiencing a challenge right now. It's going to mold you. Right. And I had a client
100%.
sit in my chair and he was like, well, my whole family struggles with a history of depression. I said, so does that mean you need to too? Are you
Yeah. Do you
going
want
to
to adopt that?
are you going
Yeah.
to embrace that or are you going to change the mold? I said, because every single time that you tell yourself, I am depressed, I am depressed, I am stressed, I have anxiety, I have these, you are creating that. You are
Yes.
manifesting that. And
Yes.
I speak about this ad nauseum. So I love that you're on the same page with it.
Totally. Totally. I'm very much on the same page and I catch myself because I'm very aware. I want to speak and preach and walk the talk that I talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the times I remind myself, okay, today I'm going to see a red car. All of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden I see 50 red cars.
Mm-hmm.
That's how the brain works.
Mm-hmm.
So if we are saying things like that, that's where attention goes.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're saying things like, oh, I'm really bummed out today, or I'm really depressed today, I'm really stressed out today, what are you going to do? Your brain's going to look for things that are going to make you feel that way
Mm-hmm.
instead of the other way, going, you know what? Okay, this is an extremely stressful moment. Call it what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like how this person is treating me. I don't like this scenario or situation. I feel out of control. I don't know how to handle this. I'm scared. Those are all okay to admit, but then go, somehow I'm going to figure this out
Mm-hmm.
because I have the opportunity to do so. And this
Mm-hmm.
is an opportunity for me to grow. I'm going to learn something from this. What is it that I'm going to learn? And I've trained my mind to go into solution basis
Mm-hmm.
because partly for survival multiple times in my life, but mainly because I don't like how I feel when I'm in the dumps.
No, no, no kidding.
I don't like that feeling. Yet, I always say this too. We choose how we feel because we're getting something out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How many people do you know that play that card though? It's always the next diagnosis. It's always the next thing. I know plenty of people, like I have a
Me
former
too.
teammate that plays off of that, right?
Yeah.
And so they get attention from that or they think they
Yes.
do, negative
Yes.
attention.
Yeah.
And it also I feel like a lot of times gives it's you making excuses for behaviors or things that have not gone the way that they
Correct.
should.
And also, I do believe as well, that a lot of the times authenticity is forgotten about.
Mhm.
And authenticity to self is huge. Many times, just like the labeling, we think we're supposed to be a certain way.
Mhm.
No, we're supposed to be us. Every day there's this Japanese word called kaizen. And
Mhm.
it means every day you just want to be that little fraction of a little bit better with self. And
Mhm.
whatever that means to you is what it means to you. For me, it's I always want to be just that slight bit better with how I treat people and treat myself and everything that is encompassing that.
Mhm.
Understanding, awareness, authenticity, honesty, all of that. But
Mhm.
when we get down to the nitty gritty of it, those labels that we put on ourselves, or the medical community we might put on ourselves, or our parent, or our spouse, or a kid, we have to decide, are we going to believe that or not? because it really is up to us. We're like the buck stops here or it doesn't. Plain and
So,
simple.
and the thing about that is people will look at people like us and they're like, well, it must be nice. You're so rainbows and unicorns and whatever. And that's actually couldn't be further from the truth, right?
I just crossed my eyes, did you tell?
Yeah. I mean, that couldn't be further than the truth, but point blank, it is a choice. It is a choice to feel the feelings that you have. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. I mean, maybe you are. I for sure
I am
am
so
not.
not.
I am a hot dumpster fire, but I am very introspective and I analyze everything. And so when I get into these negative patterns, I'm like, okay, well, what's going on here? And I think that's a huge part of what's going on with our young society as well. Because we are so quick to place trauma on them. They need to go to counseling. They need to do this. When the thing is a lot of times you feel sad or have feelings about things because it's meant to be a learning tool.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
we learn from our emotions. And when we're shutting this off in our young people, we're causing them a huge disservice. We're basically putting an emotional blanket around them, right? So I think that we also need to take into consideration, we feel these feelings for a reason. If this did not make us feel good, then why? And how can we prevent that from happening in the future?
Correct. Emotions are energy in motion. That's all they are. They are a sign that says, you might want to look at this. It might not be a stop sign, but it's a yield sign going, why are you feeling this way? Something isn't quite working. So like you said, become introspective and find out what it is. I always teach this thing called the emotional scale. Have you heard of it? It is so profound. So if you take a piece of paper and you draw a line right here and an arrow here and an arrow here, and in the center of it is you put a line, and the center is actually called neutral, which is actually number 5. To the far left is 0. To the far right is 10. And if you put 1, 2, 3, 4, neutral, which is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which is like nirvana. 0 is extreme low. And I've likened it to where people have thought about ending their life, or they've attempted to end their life, or something really devastating has got them to that point where they feel there's no return. And 10 is like absolute nirvana, like when they graduated or when they got married or their firstborn was done or they bought their Lambo or whatever it might be, the most incredible moment that they can think of. And 5 is like when the telemarketer calls you, but you're in neutral zone. You're just like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't need that. Thanks, but have a good day. Like, it's like you have no emotional connection to it, right? Between 1, 2, and 3, and 4, you will have memories that will bring you from absolute desperation, not so much desperation, to a 2, which is kind of like, okay, that really hurt, like maybe like a loss of someone that you really care about, to a 3, maybe where it's like, oh man, like I lost that course, I lost that job or whatever. But it brings you to a neutral point. And 6 is like, hey, you know what? That's kind of fun. I get to go to a birthday party. I haven't seen this person in a long time. 7 is like, oh my God, you know, we're going on this holiday, or I got the job I wanted, or 8, like it just builds up. Society teaches us we're supposed to be living between 8 and 10. That's impossible. That's called Prozac. It's called uppers. That's called speed. That's called ecstasy. That's called unattainable. That is not how the human brain works. Regular emotional fluctuations go between 3 and 7.5 multiple times a day. That is a big birth of movement, emotions. And women, of course, are more prone to it, but men feel it too. So when you look at that, and I like to teach my patients that, because I like them to have that emotional scale, because then they can go, wait, where am I? Oh, I'm a 4. I'm not a 2. Oh, I guess it's not that bad. Okay. Because they relate it to experiences that they have already induced and incurred. So when they look at it, they're like, okay, well, it's all good. This will pass. I can learn something from this. If you're at a 1, okay, call Jenna. Or call Connie, right? But if you're between that 3 and 7.5, that's called life, man. What a beautiful thing. And
I
you
love
will
that.
get the 8, 9s, and 10s. And you will
Mhm.
have the 0 and 1s because that's also called life. But 90% of life is lived between the 3 and the 7.5.
Mhm.
And I love teaching that tool because that makes you feel like, okay, I'm not losing my cool, or I'm not freaking out over something ridiculous, or I'm not having a bipolar moment. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Right. Absolutely. Well, I love that. So if you could leave our listeners with anything today,
Mhm.
any word of advice, anything that you think is really important to get out there, what would it be?
I would probably say these are the words that are coming to me. Don't take things at face value.
Mhm.
You know, if you really want to succeed in truly moving forward, being healthy, happy, and vital and vibrant, dig deep. It's not as difficult as it sounds, and it sure isn't as scary as it needs to be. There's
Mhm.
lots of resources out there. There's lots of experts out there that'll lead you with compassion and understanding, but also give you the tools that you need for your toolbox so you
Mhm.
can live a life that you want to live.
Mhm. I love that. Well, if people want to find you, where do they do that?
They can email me, or they can even call me.
Mhm.
So changemylifetoday.net
Mhm.
is my website.
Mhm.
And you can also email me just at globalwellnessadvisors@gmail.com. And they
Mhm.
can text me or call me 754-270-9079. I'm around.
Brave gal putting your phone number up. You're like, brave. Well, I love this. And how about Instagram? I know you have an Instagram page as well. What's
Yes.
that under?
Jenna is international. So you'll see all of my modeling, my yoga stuff, some of my mental health stuff with hypnotherapy, but I'll be expanding that and probably adding a second page pretty quick.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for all of your pearls of
Thank
wisdom
you.
today. I'm sure
Thank
everybody's
you.
going to get a ton out of this episode.
I love it. Thank you so much, Connie, for what you do. I really appreciate it. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.